There are moments when life quietly asks you a question your heart has been avoiding. What if the person you're holding on to is the very person God is trying to remove? What if the tension you feel isn't confusion, but protection? You didn't imagine the shift, the conversations that feel heavier now, the resistance you can't explain, the doors that won't open no matter how hard you push. And it hurts, because you prayed for peace, not distance. You prayed for unity, not separation. You prayed for clarity, and instead you feel loss. But listen closely. God often protects us in ways that feel like rejection at first. You're not weak for grieving what's changing. You're not faithless for missing who someone used to be to you. And you're not wrong for feeling conflicted when love and warning exist in the same space. Some connections drain you slowly. Not all harm is loud. Not all danger comes dressed as evil. Sometimes it arrives as comfort that keeps you small. Sometimes it looks like familiarity that delays your calling. And God in His mercy begins to intervene, not by force, but by friction. This is where the first sign appears. God is disrupting your peace around them. You notice it in your spirit before your mind catches up. You can't relax the way you used to. Your prayers feel unsettled when their name comes up. Something inside you tightens, not with fear but with caution. This is not condemnation. It's discernment awakening. Scripture says the peace of God will guard your hearts and your minds. When peace leaves, it is often because God is guarding you from what your emotions still crave. Think of David. Before Saul ever threw the spear, David felt the shift. Favor turned into jealousy. Praise turned into threat. God allowed the tension so David would move before the danger destroyed him. If your peace is disappearing around someone, don't ignore it. God is aligning you with safety, not comfort. The second sign is this. God is exposing patterns you used to excuse. What once felt normal now feels heavy. Jokes sting. Behavior feels off. Words land differently. You start noticing what you once explained away. The control masked as concern. The criticism hidden in humor. The inconsistency wrapped in promises. This isn't you becoming sensitive. This is you becoming aware. Scripture says nothing is hidden that will not be revealed. God doesn't always remove people immediately. Sometimes He removes the blindfold first. Joseph experienced this when his brother's jealousy surfaced. The dreams didn't change, but their hearts did. God allowed the exposure because Joseph's destiny required separation. If you're seeing clearly now what you once tolerated, that clarity is mercy. The third sign feels confusing at first. God is closing doors you keep trying to reopen. You reach out, but conversations fall flat. Plans collapse. Opportunities to reconnect dissolve. And you wonder, why is this so hard? Because God knows what would happen if access remained. Scripture reminds us that God shuts doors no one can open, and opens doors no one can shut. Closed doors are not punishment. They are prevention. Think of Lot. When angels urged him to leave, it felt abrupt, urgent, almost cruel. But staying would have cost him everything. If something keeps ending, no matter how much effort you put in, God is protecting you from a future you cannot yet see. The fourth sign goes even deeper. God is strengthening you to stand without them. You're learning to pray alone, decide alone, trust God without their approval. What once felt impossible now feels necessary. Scripture says God will not give His glory to another. If someone has become your source instead of God, separation becomes inevitable. This is what happened with Gideon. God reduced his army before the victory, not after. Because reliance had to shift before deliverance could come. If you're being pushed into independence, it's not abandonment, it's preparation. And here is the fifth sign, quiet but powerful. God is redirecting your desires. You no longer crave their presence the same way. Your prayers are changing, your vision is expanding. What once felt essential now feels optional. Scripture says God works in you to will and to act according to His purpose. Sometimes protection doesn't look like resistance. It looks like replacement. God doesn't just remove people, He replaces attachments. And that is where the story begins to turn. Because what feels like loss right now is actually God preserving you for what's next. You may not see the full picture yet, but heaven does. And God never separates without reason, never removes without intention, never protects without love. There is a sixth sign that often comes quietly, but it carries great weight. God is placing a holy discomfort inside your spirit. You try to justify staying. You remind yourself of memories. You replay old versions of who they were. But something inside you refuses to settle. This isn't guilt. This isn't bitterness. This is the Spirit of God whispering. This is not where you grow. Scripture says, do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character. That doesn't mean the person is evil. It means the connection is no longer aligned. Abraham had to leave Lot behind, not because Lot was wicked, but because the blessing required separation. God told Abraham to lift his eyes only after Lot left. If you feel restless around someone you once felt safe with, God may be protecting the future version of you from being pulled backward. And then comes the seventh sign, the most painful, the most misunderstood. God is replacing grief with peace, not immediately, not all at once, but slowly, subtly, unmistakably. You still miss them, but you no longer feel bound to them. You still care, but you're no longer controlled. Scripture says God gives peace that surpasses understanding. Peace that doesn't make sense is often confirmation. Jesus experienced this when he let the rich young ruler walk away. He loved him, but he didn't chase him, because love does not override obedience. If peace is beginning to rise where pain once lived, God is sealing the separation. Now listen to me closely. This season is not about rejection. It's about rescue. God is not punishing you by removing someone. He is protecting you from becoming smaller, quieter, weaker, or compromised. What you thought was loss is actually alignment. What felt like distance is actually deliverance. What seemed like silence is actually God working behind the scenes. He is blocking conversations you don't need, shielding you from manipulation you don't recognize yet, saving you from emotional cycles that would have delayed your calling. One day, you will look back and thank God for what didn't work out, for who didn't stay, for the separation that saved you. This season becomes your testimony. You will say, I didn't understand it then, but God was protecting me. So here is your declaration. Say it slowly. Say it with faith. God is protecting me, even when it hurts. I trust His separation. I trust His timing. I trust His love. And may peace settle your heart tonight. May clarity replace confusion. May God guard your spirit from attachments that no longer serve your purpose. May you walk forward lighter, stronger, more aligned. And if this message spoke to you, you are not alone. You are being shaped, refined, protected. Stay close. There is more strength being forged within you than you realize. Here at the Forge Within,